Borussia Monchengladbach are a well-established part of the Bundesliga, currently in the midst of a 15-year spell in the top flight. But all the way back in the 1970s, they were one of the best teams in the world, winning many honours, including 5 league titles, with greats such as Jupp Heynkes and Berti Vogts forming part of the side. They were one of the greatest sides European football has ever seen. But sadly, due to them failing to clinch the club game's biggest honour, they are often overlooked in the history books. This is a story of Borussia Monchengladbach's golden era. Borussia Monchengladbach were founded in 1900 and spent many years as an amateur side, before they won their first honour in 1960 with the DFB Pokal. Upon the formation of the Bundesliga in 1963, Monchengladbach remained in the second tier of the West German pyramid, but a new appointment would change it all for them. Hennes Weisweiler was appointed the club's manager in 1964. Whilst having a nominal playing career that saw him notch 62 appearances for Cologne, he had entered into a promising coaching career, and Monchengladbach hoped he could lead them to the top flight. He built a young side, with youngsters such as Jupp Heynkes and Günther Netzer coming into the team, and later Berti Vogts too. They were given the nickname of the Foals, due to their squad having an average age of 21.5 years old, and gained plaudits due to their carefree style of play that saw them score 92 goals in Weisweiler's first season in charge. In 1965, they won promotion alongside Bayern Munich, a side they would go at loggerheads with over the next decade for honours. It would be their first taste of Bundesliga football. Weisweiler was committed to building with the resources he had, as the club had limited finances and had nearly gone bust in the early 60s. His promotion of young talent, who he allowed freedom on the field, would prove incredibly successful. They won their first ever Bundesliga game 5-0, and although the naive side would finish 13th at the end of the season, there were plenty of great moments ahead. They finished 8th the next campaign, and achieved an 11-0 victory over Schalke along the way. Whilst they were forced to sell players to cover the rising wages, they reinvested the money wisely, and soon it would all pay off. Having experienced a couple of third-place finishes, the club looked to shore up the defence. On the 30th of April 1970, a 4-3 win over Hamburg sealed Monchengladbach's first ever Bundesliga title, and had finished the season 4 points ahead of Bayern Munich. They had climbed to the top of the domestic game, and had no plans to back down. The next year, they became the first ever club to retain the Bundesliga, also winning their first ever European game 6-0 along the way. The trophies were flooding in, and there would be many more to come. They would also dip into the foreign market, bringing in Danish players Ulrik Lefebvre, Henning Janssen, and the legendary Allan Simonsen. The 72-73 campaign saw them reach their first ever European final, where they faced Bill Shankly's Liverpool. A 3-0 defeat away at Anfield made the tie look already over, but Monchengladbach would fight to a valiant 2-0 win in the return leg, but it was not enough. There was, however, redemption in the DFB Pokal, with them defeating Cologne 2-1 to win the trophy for a second time. The game was a bizarre encounter, with Günther Netzer condemned to a bench by Weisweiler for attempting to negotiate a move to Real Madrid. Netzer was initially told he was coming on at half-time, but refused, only deciding to do so late in added time when Christian Kulik came off due to injury. Netzer removed his tracksuit top and told his coach, "I am going to play now." In the 94th minute, with only his second touch, he scored the winner to win the cup. It was his last game for the club, as he got his wish and moved to Real Madrid. They finished runners-up to Bayern in 74, with Jupp Heynkes scoring 30 goals to become the first Monchengladbach player to be the Bundesliga's top scorer. Many of these players would experience further glory, with Berti Vogts, Herbert Wimmer, Jupp Heynkes, Rainier Bonhoff and Wolfgang Kleff all being part of West Germany's World Cup winning squad that summer. The next campaign would be a great one for the club. After a 4-year drought, they won their third Bundesliga title, leading the league for half the season, and also added another honour. They reached their second UEFA Cup final and faced FC Twente. Whilst the first leg finished 0-0, Monchengladbach burst into life in the away leg, with Allan Simonsen netting twice and Jupp Heynkes getting a hat-trick. They had added a European honour to their collection and won their first double, but were about to have an emotional goodbye. In the summer of 75, Hennes Weisweiler made the decision to move to Barcelona to take up a new challenge. He left the club a legend, guided him to 3 league titles, a DFB Pokal and a UEFA Cup. His replacement would be Udo Lattek. Latek had been an adversary to Mönchengladbach, guiding Bayern Munich to 3 consecutive league titles as well as a European Cup, but now hoped to continue winning trophies with his former rivals. He made the team play a more cautious, defensive style, but it did not damage their success. They won the league again in 1976, and the next season retained it. They had completed the three-peat, with Alan Simpson winning the Ballon d'Or, and they would also have their biggest ever game. On the 25th of May, 1977, Borussia Monchengladbach faced Liverpool in a European Cup final in Rome. It was a chance for them to complete their honours list, but the Reds of Merseyside would thwart them again. Liverpool took the lead through Terry McDermott, but Alan Simpson would level the scores early in the second half. However, goals from Tommy Smith and Phil Neal secured the European Cup for Liverpool, and Latek's side would return home heartbroken. 1978 was a year of heartbreak, as they reached the semi-finals of the European Cup, only for Liverpool to defeat them once more. As although Mönchengladbach defeated Borussia Dortmund 12-0 on the final day, they missed out on the lead to Cologne, ironically on goal difference. The club's stalwarts were starting to age, and Latek was receiving criticism for having no regeneration plan. However, he would have one last hurrah for the club, as they won UEFA Cup final against Frankfurt on away goals. It would be the bookend of their golden era though. Latek left the club that summer to join Dortmund, and Jupp Heynkes would retire from playing and replace him as manager. However, the club was forced to sell several stars due to the lack of revenue from their small stadium, which caused them to slip down the table. Whilst they challenged for titles at points in the 1980s, they suffered a gradual decline, and whilst they won their third DFB Pokal in 1995, they were relegated to second tier in 1999. Borussia Monchengladbach have failed to replicate the success they once had, with the 1995 DFB Pokal victory being their only major honour since Latek's departure. It is unlikely they will ever reach these heights again, but what they had achieved was incredible. An exciting group of young talent went toe-to-toe with an incredible Bayern Munich side and swept up honours throughout the 70s, with few teams winning so many trophies in one decade. Had they won the European Cup that night in Rome, perhaps more people would speak of them. What was achieved by Weisweiler and Latek was incredible, as they conquered the league in style, winning games by large margins on several occasions. And whilst retaining the Bundesliga is something Bayern Munich have mastered, Mönchengladbach were the first to do it. The Mönchengladbach side of the 1970s achieved incredible things with a limited budget and by being from a city of around 250,000 people, and the Foles of that decade are perhaps the most underrated side of all time.